I got ChatGPT to ask me questions about the Marella cruise I went on with my sister in December. Here's how it went. During the cruise, I kept a daily journal of what we did, and I decided to type that up, plug it into ChatGPT and ask it to create 10 questions from the information that I provided, and I would answer them in this video. And then I would include the clips of videos that I actually took while I was on the cruise. So here are the 10 questions that ChatGPT generated. Question 1. What was the flight like from Gatwick to Gran Canaria? So Marella Cruises is owned, I believe, by TUI, and TUI chartered a flight from Gatwick to Gran Canaria. The Marella Cruise is an all-inclusive cruise, which means that everything is included in the price. However, the chartered flight is included, but you have to pay for anything that you want on the actual flight. So no drinks, no food, and not even water. We were lucky, we were tired, so we slept for the 3 hours that it took to get to Gran Canaria. Question 2. How was the food on the ship? Be honest. I'd have to say the food on the ship was a bit of a mixed bag. There were some good things, and there was some really awful stuff. One of the best places on the cruise ship was the snack shack, and that was good because the food was made to order, which meant that it was cooked mostly in front of you and it was hot, so you could guarantee that it was hot and it was fresh. That was really good, and we ended up there quite a few times. Yeah, some of the meals weren't that good. They were either bland, not really well cooked, or overcooked, or cold. Sometimes we did find that we had to return food because we just couldn't eat it, and other times we ended up going and getting snacks later on because, yeah, the dinners weren't that great. One thing that was great was the ice cream. The ice cream was always a good choice. Question 3. What was the entertainment like? Any favourites? Okay, one of the best things about the Marella Cruise was the entertainment. The staff that they had there really knew how to put on a show. We had fantastic theatre productions. There was an ABBA tribute band and they were fantastic. I would definitely recommend you going to the theatre shows because, as I said, they really did know how to put on a performance. The 2 standout performances that we saw was a show called Jumbo, and it was about an elephant, and the way they put the show together was amazing, and I would really recommend it. We had a really good time. Question 4. Did you meet any characters on board? Okay, characters as in individuals that were, shall we say, interesting. There was one particular guy who was a little bit drunk and, well, not a little bit drunk, really drunk, and he got up to all sorts of antics, and we heard that one of the things that he did was that he was a bit of a gambler, so he actually took the bikes from the Marella Cruise on one of the days when we were at port, and he actually sold the electric bike to a shop and took the money so he could go gambling. When he got back on the ship, well, there wasn't anything they could really do except hold his passport, and I'm actually not quite sure what happened to him in the end, but we heard about the story because he was in the bar one night drunk, and him and his son was telling us about what happened, made a joke of it, and it was funny but also not so funny. Another person who stood out was a woman called Eileen. Of course, everyone started saying, "Come on, Eileen," as soon as we heard her name. She actually interrupted one of the shows, and the comedian was okay, he wasn't that great, but she definitely made sure that that evening was funny because she upstaged his act and we were all laughing at her instead of at him. So yeah, you will definitely find that some of these type of cruises will have individuals that will make you laugh unintentionally, and sometimes they will make or break your cruise depending on how you feel about that type of interruption. Question 5. How was Pamela's birthday? Okay, so as I said, we went on the Marella Cruise to celebrate my sister's birthday, and we had a wonderful time, I have to say. One of the things we really appreciated was our cabin steward, and her name was Mary. And as soon as she heard that it was my sister's birthday, she decorated our cabin by creating, you know, those towel animals, and she also put a sign up on the door, which I thought was really sweet, because these cabin stewards, they are really busy. So for her to take a little bit of time out of her morning to do that, we thought it was really nice, and my sister really appreciated it. So actually on the day of my sister's birthday, we ended up, as we always do, in the nightclub, where we had an absolutely fantastic time. We stayed up dancing until 2 o'clock, which is what we did most nights. The DJs were fantastic, so we really had a great time. Question 6. What were your port stops like? Any deja vu moments? So the deja vu moments were the fact that we realised that we had visited some of these ports before. We'd visited these ports during a P&O cruise a few years before. It was only once we stepped off the ship and we started walking around and exploring the areas that we realised that, oh yeah, we have actually been here before. And so it was nice to go back again and to see, you know, familiar places. And yeah, we had a really nice time just, you know, wandering around the different places. The ports that we called at were Santa Cruz, Lanzarote and Funchal. Question 7. What was your cabin like? Be brutally honest. So our cabin was very compact. It was an internal cabin. We went for the cheapest deal possible because we were on a budget. And as I said, it was compact, but it had everything we needed. The worst thing about the cabin, I'd have to say, was the shower curtain in the bathroom. The shower curtains were fabric, and you could see that they had dirt that was ingrained in the bottom of the shower curtain. Even though we know the shower curtains were clean, there are some things you just can't get out unless you really, really bleach them. So we actually asked if we could get the curtain changed, which it was, but it didn't really make much of a difference because it still had those, you know, those dirt stains on the bottom. So that was a bit disgusting. Question 8. Any cruise fashion fails? Okay, so the major fashion fail that I had during this cruise was my beautiful silver pumps. I had these beautiful silver ballet pumps that I've had for years, and they were in my cupboard for years at home, and I thought they would be perfect for the cruise, so I took them. I didn't realise that they were falling apart, and as I was walking along, the sole of one shoe completely fell off. And I did that in the company of some people, and one gentleman just laughed out loud. He thought it was hilarious, and I was cringing, of course, because it was very embarrassing. And as I carried on walking and looked at the other sole of my shoe, I realised I'd already lost the sole of that one. And so I had 2 pairs of shoes with no soles. The silver bits were flaking off the top, and a little bit embarrassed, but of course I had to just laugh it off. But that was definitely my fashion fail of my cruise. Question 9. What was your favourite moment from the whole trip? Okay, so the most favourite part of the whole trip would have to be going on a cruise with my sister and dancing in the nightclub all night until 2 a.m. almost every evening. We had such a good laugh. It was a nice atmosphere, the people were really friendly, and everyone just really enjoyed themselves on the dance floor. The DJ was really nice, the different DJs. Sometimes some of the guests were a bit rude to the DJs because they desperately wanted certain songs to be played. But on the whole, we had an amazing time and yeah, a really good laugh. Also, another highlight is the trivia that was on the ships. And we always enjoy a bit of trivia. And at one of the competitions, we actually won a pair of giant flip-flops, which was really silly. but it was fun and everybody laughed and everybody had a really good time. So, yep, definitely had great fun in the nightclub, and that was a great, all-round thing about the ship. Question 10, final thoughts. Would you cruise with Marella again? So this is a 50-50 type answer. On the one hand, yes, because the entertainment was amazing, the atmosphere was lovely, the people were friendly, the staff were really helpful and friendly, and we had a great time in the nightclub, dancing until 2. So that was really nice. On the other hand, the food in general was just not very good. The standard wasn't that high, and it feels like that if you're paying all-inclusive, they've not really allocated that much money to the food budget, or they're cooking the food so early that by the time it gets to your table, it's already been sitting down somewhere too long, so that by the time it gets to you, it's either cold or it's bland. So I don't know, on the whole, I would say if I could find another budget deal, I think we would definitely give it another try. So those were the answers to the questions that ChatGPT asked me about my Marella cruise. I would be really interested to know if you've been on a Marella cruise and what your experience was. What did you think of the food? Maybe you had better food, maybe you had worse. And what did you think of your entertainment when you were on the cruise? Okay, so that's it about my Marella cruise. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.